Yeah, that's pretty big.
The one next door to,
Yeah.
the she built.
Reporting in progress usually.
Did you
I
kill
make
the other meeting? Or you just
Oh,
add
yeah.
one?
No, I think
Okay, so it's the new meeting.
it's again.
Not giving you the reporting option at all. Really cool.
It's just not saying.
All right,
Alright.
I have 6:42. I call the meeting to order. This is the April 10th, 2024 meeting of the Woodcreek City Council at 6:30 p.m. here at City Hall. And I ask everybody to rise for a moment of silence and pledges. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Roll.
Mayor Xeriscape,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Deborah Hines. Here. Councilmember Linnea Bailey. Here. Councilmember Chris Crummer.
Here.
Councilmember Bob Hambrick.
Here.
Councilmember Krista Richardson. Here. Thank you.
And Mr. Drummond, you want to hold the seventh item?
Yeah.
So we'll go into the consent agenda, which is the approval of the regular city council meeting minutes from March 27th.
Mayor, I move that we approve the regular council, city council meeting minutes from March 27th, 2024.
The consent agenda has been moved and seconded. All in favor, please raise your hand, say aye. I get to do that. It's fine. Motion passed unanimously.
Got one meeting
you're in. Consent agenda has been passed. I do have a brief report of some of the things going on. Number one item is I had a chance to meet with Don Minnick with the Wimberley Arts Organization. Wimberley Arts.org, which is Wabaka, about possible city art installations and also the formation of a mayor's arts advisory group. And this stems from, you'll remember a couple meetings ago where we recognized Wabaka and WimberleyArts.org and the expansion of the cultural district to include Woodcreek. And it dawned on me that we don't really have a whole lot of, I mean, we have a ton of artists, but not a whole lot of art in town. So I just met with Don and just said, what would that be like? And he had some ideas and possible sculptures around the sculpture garden in Triangle. They have a whole music program, and we've talked about, performances at the gazebo, and Kevin's been really fond of that idea, which I agree with. I like that idea. And he said there's some great possibilities there, and that they're willing to work with us. Their board met yesterday. I haven't heard from him yet on what they were saying, but he was going to bring it to his board to just sort of gauge interest. So that is underway. I've talked to a few people that are local artists, art lovers, Emma Davenport, Jane Little, my wife Monica, and so just to sort of throw some ideas around. So we're going to be doing that. We'll bring some more information back as that becomes. Yeah, I mean, maybe, that'd be cool.
We actually have somebody that has made booths here in.
Yeah, well, actually, the booth, a booth is one of the ideas Pat Rawlings said, you know what? You need a booth. He's former president of Woodcreek. But anyway, and we have a booth artist at the diet. So we know something about booths, but, you know, so I think it could be fun. I think it could be something lasting that we can leave the city. So, of course, funding is an issue. There's a lot of things to consider.
We'd have to put it in the budget, that's kind of a.
Yeah, there's budget, there's grants, woodcreekarts.org, you know, might come up with some funding, there's sponsorships, there's, yeah, there's a lot of ways to raise money. We don't have to do it all at once. We can have a, 5-year plan or 10-year plan. So anyway, we're just gonna throw some ideas around. I just wanted to say that, we have had that conversation. There is interest, and, if there's interest, on the council to pursue, then we'll pursue. Website is ongoing. I just wanted to say it's ongoing. And they had a reveal, session that I had to miss, unfortunately, but I know that what Kevin and Deborah were there, and just like, okay, here's where it is now. We do go into training, over the next couple of weeks, and so we're bringing in the team to really learn how to run the back end of this new website. So it's all different. It's gonna be great. Just the look of it now is already, considerably better, and it's just sort of a mock-up. So they're putting, they're in the process of moving information that we have on the current site into the new site. So we'll be working on that completely. I had in my report an eclipse report, but everybody knows what happened. It's done. It was eaten by a dragon. But anyway, it's like, if there were any problems, but there were no problems. Kevin was here monitoring things from headquarters, from the command center. I was out in the mayor mobile driving around, making sure everybody was okay, trying to hand out my extra eclipse glasses that nobody would take because they were all set, but we did such a good job of telling people what to do. The communication on the eclipse was phenomenal throughout the valley. And thanks to all of y'all for everything you did too. We mentioned the 40th anniversary event that is starting to be planned for June. I am looking for event committee people, if any volunteers in it. And so that would be, that's at Camp In today. They've already said they have the space, but in the meantime, staff, did some research and found out that the actual, I had thought just because elections happen in May, that the election happened in May. No, it was August 11th that it was actually passed and we became essentially a city. So August 11th is our sort of birthday. So there's been some discussion about, okay, if we go forward with June 2nd, fine. If we push it to August 11th-ish, that's fine too. Or we could do the June thing just as a good excuse to go have an early summer party and go swimming at Camp Judea. And then like on August 11th, do an event or events around in the parks. So open to suggestion on that. It's not an agenda item, it's just a report, so I'm not going into discussion, but we will want to have, if anybody's interested in working on this with me, please, be in touch as soon as possible. And then we'll still workshop it as we get a little bit closer to the date and just have it on the agenda of the workshop time. And then just sort of in conjunction with the 40th, we also haven't yet, like done ribbon cutting on the parks. And, we were thinking about it. I mean, Kevin reached out to Commissioner Shell's office and we were trying to cut something last November. And it's just, we couldn't get on the schedule, February, couldn't get on the schedule. So now they're contacting us and said, aren't you going to do something? We're going, yes. So they're trying to find a date that Commissioner Shell can be here. We can do an official ribbon cutting. Thank you very much. Pat Rawlings has agreed to make a little sign commemorating, Kozak and the county. And so that could be, sooner rather than later. It may actually, I mean, I suggested maybe it be a part of the Arbor Day, not the Arbor Day celebration, but the Arbor Day, since everybody's gonna be gathering at the parks, that we could cut a ribbon down at Creekside, and then he could go over and say hi to people up at the Triangle for Arbor Day. So we'll work out those details. And finally, just a quick report on our Wimberley, Woodcreek collaboration. As you know, for the last couple of years, we've been meeting with our counterparts in Wimberley, the mayors pro tem, and the city managers. It's been very fruitful. Not as productive as maybe we'd all like to see, like, city marshals and shared municipal courts and some of those things that we talked about. But it's still been very fruitful. And so the last meeting we had it here, and Jim Childs, who's the incoming mayor, joined us for the meeting. So we're getting him worked in, and he's anxious to keep it going. And then depending on what happens with Mayor Pro Tem Minnick's election on the commissioner's court, we'll see what happens there. But it's very good, and it's not like private, but it's like we start getting towards we're trying to get maybe some guest speakers in, maybe something if any of y'all are really interested in something, have some ideas and want to present to the Wimberley group, we're open to that. The agenda is always open and fluid, and that's my report. So, because we like going into public hearings, the next item on the regular agenda, number 2, public hearing regarding possible updates to chapter 156.057 fences, including but not limited to the consideration of increasing side and back fence height limits to 8 feet. And I have 754.
654.
I'm sorry, 654. Yeah, 654. Thank you. So we open the public hearing at 6:54. Any comments about the fence height requirements? All right, we will close the public hearing at 6:54 and move on to item number 4, which is Councilmember Bailey's discuss and take appropriate action to nominate members to infrastructure control. Sir.
I move to nominate Lydia Johns to the I&M panel as a regular member.
Any discussion? Roll. Ready? Take a show of hands. Lydia Johns,
Aye.
thank you very much. That's unanimous. That's on that item. That's when we move to number 5. Discuss and take appropriate action about resolution 2024-04-10-1, resolution of the City Council of the City of Woodcreek, Texas, amending the city's master fee schedule to include a fee to cover the city's cost for processing petitions for the release from the city's extraterritorial jurisdiction.
Mayor. I move to adopt resolution 2024-04-10-01, amending the city's master rate fee schedule to include a fee to cover the city's cost for processing petitions for the release from the city's extraterritorial jurisdiction as edited by council on March 13th of this year. Thank you. Council previously asked for edits to be made to the whereas sections of this resolution amending the city's master rate fee schedule. The document in the packet does not represent those edits, but my motion is to adopt the resolution that includes those previous edits.
All right, the motion by Councilmember Brummer, seconded by Councilmember Richardson, is to adopt resolution 2024-04-10-01, amending the city's master fee schedule to include a fee to cover the city's cost for processing petitions for the release from the city's territorial jurisdiction, including edits, that were made in March
March
27th,
March 13th.
13, March 13 of this year. Any further discussion? All in favor? Hand, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Any comment on that? City manager?
What?
Any comment on the? Item number 6, discuss and take appropriate action to distribute wildfire home preparation and evacuation literature to residents as part of the Woodcreek Community Wildfire Protection Plan. Councilmember Richardson.
Hello. All right, I move to distribute wildfire home preparation and evacuation literature to residents as part of the Woodcreek Community Wildfire Protection Plan.
I second.
Thank you. So just a little background, to efficiently distribute wildfire action plan literature to local citizens, a multi-pronged approach blending cost effectiveness and accessibility is essential. While the Ready, Set, Go pamphlet that's included in the packet stands as the most comprehensive guide, mailing 8 pages out to every citizen could be financially burdensome. Thus, a strategic combination of methods is proposed. Firstly, a select number of the Ready, Set, Go pamphlets, perhaps 100 copies, could be made available for pickup at City Hall, ensuring easy access for those who seek detailed information. Secondly, to reach a broader audience without incurring excessive costs, more concise pamphlets could be mailed out. These condensed versions could provide essential information in a more economical format. Additionally, to cater to the digitally inclined populace, a PDF file of the Ready, Set, Go pamphlet could be prominently featured and easily accessible on the city's official website, ensuring widespread availability and dissemination of vital wildfire preparedness information. This integrated approach aims to maximize outreach while being mindful of budgetary constraints and diverse citizen preferences. So if you'll take a look at, I attached 4 different possible pamphlets. So the one that was created by the Texas A&M, it's the Ready, Set, Go. I mean, just by looking at it, you can see how much it covers. It has safety checklists. It tells you how you can prepare your home to protect it in the best way from wildfire. It gives you contact information for the fire department, sheriff's department. It goes over what defensible space is and how you can improve that to reduce the risk of your home catching on fire. So I think that one's just fantastic, and it really covers everything that everybody needs to know, as well as you're able to like write out what your personal wildfire action plan is. So everybody in your family is familiar with it and knows what to do. You have things that are packed in case you need to leave urgently. So that would be what I would prefer to get out to the citizens, but like I said, mailing out that big of a pamphlet would probably just be a little cost prohibitive. So I would just suggest having something here, letting citizens know about it through the text alerts and website and all that, and then they can come in, pick one up if they want it, or they can just download it and print it up at home.
Do we have permission to post this on the website, for instance?
I'll double check, but I believe so.
Actually, all of this stuff is free for public use.
Yeah, right.
They're like a federally funded program for that purpose.
Well, since we've got it digitally right now.
Yeah.
It's like we could manage that, and then, so $700, that you're requesting?
That
or-
was just an estimate if we were gonna mail out things just to cover postage and all that, but, the cost would be a lot less if we were just printing out, 100 different
Are
pamphlets.
the pamphlets free? Or how much?
Texas A&M, well, here's one of them that you were talking about, was the emergency fair.
Right.
And Texas A&M supplies it. I wouldn't be surprised if they were to give us however many we want.
Right, that was my question, is that part of the cost if we have to purchase from the Forestry Service, or are they going to provide them free of charge?
I can reach out to them and see if
Okay.
they can provide them free of charge, that would be optimal.
And if we vote to approve this, we're basically voting to approve a $700 budget, and so we just have to sort of keep things within that. The other thing I was going to mention, I'm sorry, I'll finish here. The other thing I was going to say is that if we do decide that we want to, further distribute, we might look at a combined mailing with some other things that we might send out, which is, I think a good way to get things out in the mail or even on door hangers. So, I mean, that could be a phase 2 approach. Go ahead.
I was gonna recommend, page 38. If you're gonna make a single printout, that Firewise thing seems like a pretty great start, and then you could put, additional information at City Hall, especially if you're slipping this in with other things, that's one side, maybe on the other side, there's other info, like some kind of city report or whatever, and then it's, in the city email that went out, you could direct, larger packets at City Hall, link to the PDF, look out in your mail for Firewise. The reason why I know this one, Firewise, is that's frequently adopted by neighborhoods and is something like the city could actually even adopt a program about, like a Firewise program, and they provide signs and it prompts people to inquire what it is. And so then people learn more through that trigger of like the signs. And then it's just really simple measures you can take around your own home. As somebody who's had 2 family members' houses burned down in freak accidents and a wildfire on my property and dripping started by a welder doing fences, I'm just like, this is so important. We don't, especially in Woodcreek, we don't have real firefighting capacity with our water. They've come in and presented to us and they talked about how they're not actually there to stop your house from burning down. They're there to stop your house from catching other houses on fire. So these precautions, specifically the ones on the Firewise page, help you avoid your house catching on fire if your neighbor's is on fire. So it's very relevant for our community.
I had some concerns about, making it clear where things that are on these general, pamphlets are not quite compatible with some of our rules. Like, where it talks about having a green area, and the pamphlets talk about having a green lawn area, where we are kind of discouraging lawns. Also, one place it says, avoid ladder areas. And what they define that as is where you have random branches going up, that one branch can go up to the next level. So they said, trim those branches to the crown. But we have restrictions on what you can trim. So I just don't want to somehow get somebody thinking that, oh, well, they're sending us this, therefore now those trimming restrictions no longer apply. That's
Good point.
Yeah, the Firewise handout would be a really,
Yeah, the one-
well, it doesn't talk about that kind of stuff. It just talks about how you want to keep trim branches that overhang the home porch and deck and prune branches of large trees up to 6 to 10 feet from the ground. These are suggestions, Obviously, you would still be bound by our code, but.
So to kind of, for myself, to sum up what I'm hearing, and I agree with, is if I was to make an amendment, it would be to send out in an email a ready, set, go as a link with a PDF. And then you're gonna see if we can get some further copies for the city. That doesn't actually have to be as a motion. The other one would be that the Firewise becomes part of future mailer. Does that sound like an amendment? Yeah, I'll go ahead and make it as an amendment. I amend to have the ready, set, go sent out as a link in a city email. And the Firewise document on page 38 of the packet sent out as a future mailer.
Second?
If I could, the Firewise is a single page, is that correct? So it doesn't take any additional postage, most likely, if it were to go out that way. And the ready, set, go would have to be, of course, this got stuffed in here with 3 others, but it would be formatted so it's not, right now, I have this copy here, and this is what this is. It's the front page and back page. And I don't know if the second page is, the second one, let's see. It's, yeah, they're not quite in order. So if it could be reformatted before it gets put in a digital form, then it would be best to limit the confusion for it.
if I might make a suggestion, on our website, it's a lot better, instead of copying those PDFs and put it on the website, it's just easier to have the URL link, and they can go directly to that site. That way you don't have to worry about copyright issues, because you're not putting it on your website, you're just directing it to their site. And so not only can you get that information, but there might be other information that might be available and valuable to them. So that's, going forward, that's why most of our stuff will be outside sources. It will be a direct link to that, rather than copying it and you know how blurred and fuzzy. It's actually just gonna be a link to a website.
In the email.
Do
I
I?
don't think, did you mention it, putting it on the website as well on your, I didn't have
I
that.
didn't
in your
have you
amendment.
send the link
Is that needed?
in the
In the
email.
city
Then
email?
email the link.
Right,
Yeah.
but so if you want it to be posted on the website as well, that was not in your amendment.
Well, we will anyway, whether he makes
Yeah,
that
so-
motion or not, so it doesn't,
Yeah, so he could
feel free to make it.
make it be a link on the city website now. But I will amend my amendment.
If y'all are, if staff's willing to do it without it, I mean.
Yeah, my suggestion is, I mean, we've got a main motion, we've got an amendment that has us putting the ready, set, and go, information out via email, the Firewise, some part of a future packet. What I would ask is that Councilmember Richardson work directly with staff on the distribution of it, distribution of materials within the budget, and just, for whatever works. It's like it's like one of those things that's like, planning a communication strategy like this by committee is, we can do amendments on top of amendments on top of amendments, and we just ask Chris to oversee it and work directly with staff, on getting this stuff out, then it'll get done and done well.
I should actually amend that because no mention of a number has been spoken. So I amend my amendment to include no more than $700. Just
All right, we're going to go on the amendments, starting with the tertiary one. That this will not exceed $700.
Aye.
Scott, make sure. All right. First amendment is, Councilmember Brimmer's to send up the ready, set, and go information, as a link in an email. And I'm again asking Councilmember Richardson to help with the, copy that will go along with that email promoting that. And that, the Firewise will look at as a future mailing. So that's the amendment we're voting on now. All in favor? Do you want to say something? Okay, you're in favor. All in favor, say aye. All right, and we'll vote on the main motion, to distribute wildfire home preparation evacuation literature to residents as part of the Woodcreek Community Wildfire Protection Plan. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Check that one off. That will take us to item number 7, and we do have open comment from Mr. Bill Drumright of 1900.
Okay, well, Councilwoman, Bailey told me that at these meetings you have to talk fast.
Yeah, you got 3 minutes. So,
Talk fast and talk loud.
The thing is that, several years ago, I turned 80 years old. And along with that, I started becoming a great grandfather. And so I started to worry about a few things, and one of them was climate change. And so I delved into that. And as a matter of fact, I attended the conference over Texas State last October, I think it was, on climate change, where many of the prominent people involved in that, scientists and others, were put that on and were in attendance. That led me then to water, to the water issues. And then, of course, last summer, kind of got us all interested in the water issues. And I think that as far as regular citizens, of course, I have met with, and heard and talked to people like the Edwards Aquifer Authority, the Barton Springs Authority, the Trinity Group, and of course, our local, I guess, watershed association with David Baker. But some of the things that we can do, I have learned, and I'm sure that all of you know these things, but we can help out by conserving water. So how do we conserve water? Well, one of the things that we can do is check our homes and places for drips and leaks. And by the way, during last summer, I followed and did all the things that people mentioned, like to conserve water, to be able to keep your plants alive by using bathroom water and shower water and things like that. So I have bought into it. Another thing, and I think something that Councilwoman Baylor's going to be talking about, is landscaping, or we're calling it xeriscaping, where we kind of change our attitude about what our lawns should look like. And as a matter of fact, I read an article several years ago that said, you know, get away from thinking that only green looks good. You know, start to think brown. And so xeriscaping, and I was surprised back when I read about xeriscaping several years ago that the word desert was mentioned there. I never really thought of ourselves as being desert, but maybe that's what we're moving to, who knows, with climate change. But another one is reclaiming wastewater. You know, that's something that would take a process, but it can be done to conserve water. Some of the new sources of water would be like rainwater harvesting. And without any real knowledge about that, I had begun to think that that would probably be one of the things that we'll have to deal with, you know, either to retrofit our homes to collect rainwater, or with new construction, maybe they should even be obligated to put in some kind of rain catchment system with new construction.
Yeah, we sort of hit your time, but if you want a minute to wrap up.
Okay, well, the only other was, that I know of is, AC condensate, and people say that you can really get a lot from that. My neighbor, Pat Rawlings, said last year that he hooked his up to that, and within a very short time, had 5 gallons of water. So that would water a lot of plants around the house. So that's all I've got.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. All right. Councilmember Bailey.
Okay, well, I move that the council plan, develop, and implement a xeriscape front yard competition for the citizens of Woodcreek.
Mr. Mayor, I had an experience of doing this.
So you second the motion?
Yes.
I lived in a house for 25 years, and over that 25-year period, changed both the front yard and the backyard to DG and decomposed granite. And you learn to live with it. You have a little bit of green perhaps, but you also have mostly decomposed granite in the front yard. And what we found is that we really, it was a lot easier to maintain if you know how to put it down correctly so that it works well. And yes, what we find is as water prices go up and water becomes less available, that something like that is it works well for this community, and it will. We hate to see the beautiful green go as it's been there forever, but I think that we would really begin to enjoy new yards that will have a slightly different look to them.
We need to start enjoying the green of the golf course.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
well,
so,
I have some comments, because I'd like you to know how I got here and why I think this is a good thing for us. And, it's over the last 6 months, I've attended just about every water conservation seminar and event in the vicinity, and thanks to my friend Bill, who has said, we're gonna do this one, and so, last December, went to Hayes County Growth Development, overview. And the mayor was there, and the speakers were from Watershed Services and the Meadows Group, and a hydrologist. The message there was we doubled our population in the last 20 years. We're gonna more than double it again by 2050. We don't have the infrastructure, but mostly we don't have the water. That's not even counting the climate change. We don't have water. And there's not a lot we can do about some of that. The next thing I attended was what I call the Citizens versus Aqua Texas. And that was the event February 9th at the Wimberley Community Center, and Mayor was there too. It was about almost 200 people there, well attended. People are very concerned about water. And Charles Flatten, the director of the Trinity Hayes Watershed, kind of summed up the whole conference in saying that, or that event, that during a drought, everybody needs to conserve. But Aqua Texas did not. They pumped just about double what they should have, and then they were fined. And then instead of paying the fine, they countersued the Hayes Trinity Groundwater District, saying that they were unfairly targeted. And they have a lot of attorneys, and so it's now kind of a battle between attorneys. And it's making progress, but there's just not a lot we can do. There's nothing I can do but maybe support the Groundwater Association. Then we had Aqua Texas met here, and they brought their A team. They told us, you know, they want to work in the spirit of cooperation. And so they told us about land they bought, where they can drill more wells that are not in the Trinity recharge area. They're also doing about 1 mile of reconstruction of leaking water pipes. So there again, things are moving, and we have very little control over that pace. It'll just happen when it happens. And the last thing I went to was last week, the groundwater symposium, which they call a deep dive into local aquifers. So there, Robert Mace, if you've ever had a chance to hear him speak, he's executive director of Meadows. And he is a very good, entertaining speaker who will kind of give you a good idea of how aquifers work. Then there was also our guy, Tim Loftus, the general manager of Barton Springs, was there. They have a lot of tools, but no caps. Roland Ruiz, who is general manager of Edwards Aquifer, they have caps and lots of control. Charles Flatten, general manager Hayes Trinity, has no caps, very little control tools. And what I think I learned from it was that I learned a lot about history and hydrology, but in Texas, the rule of capture is the law. And they pretty much said, if you're waiting for the legislature to change this, don't hold your breath. That is just about, that's where we are. So I explained that because we can learn about what the situation is, the history, how we got here, what the future looks like. But there's not a whole lot we can do. and as a council that we can do, except. So there's water conservation that we can do in our homes. And the xeriscaping people say, or the rainwater collection people say, you should have a 5,000 gallon tank. But tanks cost, containers about $1 a gallon, or you can get up to 60 cents for a larger tank. That's still, you're still getting up to $2,500. And then you've got installation. And if you don't have gutters, you gotta put in gutters. That's another couple $1,000. Now, there are people, and remember my theme is what can we do? There are people who have $10,000, $15,000 to spend on water collection. But if there are people that feel responsible for conserving water, there's nothing we can say to make them do or not. They're gonna do that. It's already in their plan. So what's left, I think we can encourage xeriscaping for our citizens, for the people that don't have $10,000, they probably don't even have $1,000, but they can do something with their own yard that they can be proud of. And my neighbor, who kind of got me on this notion, he has a really interesting xeriscape. And it was just very lovely to look at. But when I talked to him, he's from Europe, he's from Holland, I guess. And he just knows so many things that I didn't imagine. He's talking about where you put the only xeriscape where you get lots of sun, make very little vegetation. And then over here on the side where you've got some trees and cover, you put these plants that'll be your fire buffer and are kind of drought tolerant, and you put those there. And then he came up with, he said, well, let me show you this thing in the back. Okay, this is a water tank, but it's something, I don't know, he said, in the Middle East somewhere where they're moving around big containers. This was a container for a hunt. So it's well constructed, but it's not good secondhand. So now these kind of containers are very inexpensive. I mean, you can get this 150 gallons and they're about $75. And maybe another 200 to get it installed. But here's an affordable thing you can do. And he says like rain over a weekend will fill it up. It's not the total answer, but it's an affordable answer. And he told me something that, he's installing one of these for a neighbor in Woodcreek North. And she kind of thought, well, it doesn't look all that good, although you see there's a green cover on there. And he said, well, just think of it this way. Think of it then, you're saving the planet. So I think I would like to call this the Save the Planet Woodcreek Xeriscape Competition. So my point is, this is something we can do. And I remember having the front yard landscaping competition. The details can be worked out. This early part, we can take before and after. We can work out the details. But I think it'd be a lovely thing and a positive thing.
I think that the concept of the contest is good, you know, so you just need to sort of work through some details on that.
Yeah.
And it does raise awareness, regardless whether somebody goes and does it or not. You can show, hey, I can have a, you know, here's some really nice looking yards. Even the ones that didn't win a prize are still nice looking. You can do it too. So raising awareness is good. We have the water task force that's been at work on some of the other things that Bill mentioned, in trying to, you know, change some of our codes and do some things. So it's not like we've been sitting on our hands. But the more that we can draw attention to it, I think it's good.
Well, I was just gonna say, we're kind of parallel working on this, meaning like there's a water task force in motion, and this is one of the components and part of like a bigger educational program as well. So, I mean, I support the concept. There's plans in place, so if you're okay with, I would propose of letting the water task force kind of roll out the larger program at once, that's not just lawns, it's, kind of that series of like actions Woodcreek plans to take. That to me would be relevant, because they're already gonna be working on planning this stuff, versus having council, then we're stuck with these meetings, and then, like I said, you have kind of two bodies parallel working on the same subjects and topics. So I
Yeah,
would
very much.
suggest that we just kind of, instead of having council do this, let the water task force continue to work on that programming.
And work with Councilmember Bailey.
Well,
Yes.
there's already two council members on it.
Oh,
But I mean, I have your notes here, I see it, I think we're all on the same page, I even wrote Save the Planet as like a line for it, so I don't see any problem with it.
But is the task force, is it Woodcreek?
Yeah.
It's just Woodcreek.
Yeah.
And this is something that we know, okay.
Yeah, so it's
Well-
Chris and I leading it, we have at least 2 citizen members, and then 2 other members of existing advisory boards. And Mr. Dormeyer, if you're interested, you're welcome to join. We haven't set a first meeting, but we have developed an agenda among the 3 of us, including Mayor Rasco, because he's helping with it as well. So this program, and there's a couple different versions of this Liaison award for people who do let it go brown, because even Xeriscaping is actually very expensive. And then when you really dig into this culture of like water-wise landscaping, this and that, Xeriscaping is actually kind of a little bit behind the times, because they've learned that it actually negatively impacts the capacity for heat absorption from the sun, and actually heats the land more, causing more water evaporation, and can increase stress for trees and things like that. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic. So the programming on the lawn aspect is a little loosey-goosey, but those are the ideas that are in form of like ugliest lawn, you could do a Xeriscape category. I saw your suggestions here. I don't know where the money for any of this is coming from yet. That's not really designated even in this proposal. So that's part of the bigger ask of, as we're approaching budget season and we roll out some of these water task force programs, they're going to have budgetary components attached to them that we put into our budget, and, or that ask anyway, right? We still, as a group, have to approve it, but, so, that would be my suggestion on this. It's not a lack of support for it. It's actually 100%, we're on the same page. It's just, like I said, we have kind of a functioning body already for it. So.
Okay, so in my mind, I didn't see anything, but go ahead.
Sorry, so I also agree that this is a great concept. When it comes to residential water use, 30% of the water used at a residence is outside the house. And I think that if we as a city can kind of focus on that number, which is, it's discretionary, it's not, you don't have to water outside. The other point, I kind of took it, that xeriscaping word also, because I would prefer the word nativescaping, which is an existing word, which talks about utilizing the plants that survive really well where you are based on the environment that it's in. And if you kind of focus towards that, which we all kind of do, is like, I moved here from another location with a different kind of climate. When I first got here, I realized I can't grow anything that isn't pretty much native. So it's already in our vernacular, this idea of focus on native plants, but we can push that further, I think, and if we utilize the word nativescaping. The other thing I do agree with Mayor Pro Tem Hines is we have this group that council set up. And I think this should be definitely part of the project, because I think there's lots of other components that they could think about as coming first, like maybe we send out education information first before we let people, hey, compete. We'd be like, compete about what? I don't know what to do yet, or, that kind of thing, as well as reviewing some of our existing ordinances to make sure that we can facilitate these kind of competitions, because I would hate for this person to go into their yard, tear it out, do all this great stuff, and have our city code enforcer go, you can't do that, because it says it's so right here, and I mean, I think that's part of,
Right-of-way changes, for example, are supposed to be approved. When you
What?
landscape your right-of-way, specifically like putting in parking and things like that, I believe in our code, it's still, so I just, because I was like, no, this is a solid point, there's.
I just want to help, like, I think I'm just kind of talking to the ad hoc work group, for water task is like, when you're thinking of the project, also think about how can we facilitate it so that when we do roll it out, it is successful. Because, you know, if you roll out something and it kind of goes a lot, it's harder to take back up.
Well, I was just gonna add on that part of the programming is also looking at green infrastructure in general and how specifically the use of native grassland or native grasses actually help with water retention, slowing it down, replenishing the aquifer. They don't need any water from us, like with hoses. So some of, like I said, some of that educational component will be like, not just focusing on promoting xeriscaping. It's kind of the idea of like things you could do at your house to reduce water consumption, include this menu, you know, and then the yard award program highlights maybe some specific categories, right? Like, way to let your yard burn up, Kathy, love it, you
Or
know?
love
I don't know, you know?
love
Does anybody else have anything they want to comment on? Because these two had their turns. As have you.
Okay, well, the reason I went into the detail about what I've done to learn about the problem and come up with it, I just felt I was limiting what we really can do. And so with this, I was trying to keep it really simple in that this is something that we're not telling anyone what to do. Well, there'll be conflicts, but people can say, I've got an idea. And that was also the other part of it. I was thinking that, like I learned with my neighbor, people will come up with their own clever ideas that the task force may not think of. I don't want to eliminate the people's abilities. And so, and also, when we add too much complexity, then I just didn't want to lose the fun. So I just thought this was a simple, straightforward way of doing it.
My thinking on this is that, you know, we can very easily pass this concept of having a contest to reward citizens who, you know, really pay attention to being water wise in their outside, you know, in their planting. The task force is operating independently if they know that that's already a tool that's in their toolbox, that's in process and coordinate and work it all out. I don't see any problem with that. I don't think this is an either or. I think it's an and. I just think you can have it both ways.
The motion states council plans and develops it
Mhm.
as stated right now. So that was my argument of why have council in addition to this body we've already created working on this topic.
Well, council plan and develop can be a council member planning and develop and have it wrapped up in place, ready to go. And in coordination with the task force, if it's time to roll it out as part of the educational process, it's already in the can, is my thought. And I think that the two bodies or the two concepts can work side by side. I don't think that the council supports that it go on. I mean, what she's requested is like $175 in prices. You know, council can approve that, you know, and then it can be handled independently, by Councilmember Bailey and or, citizen other to get it in plan, but I think that does not be rolled out without coordination with the task force.
I move to amend to send the planning, development, and implementation to the ad hoc water development task force and bring back to council for approval of implementation of the competition.
So just taking me out of it. Again,
I second. I gotta be honest, it's not about taking you out of it and it's not personal at all. It's just that, you know, I've also been working on this for 3 years now. And we set apart this body. I said I would help chair it. We've got balls rolling. To me, the yard program is beyond Xeriscape. I believe that this is a limited program. I would like to see a little bit more extensive program be implemented with, like I said, that educational component backing it, and a plan in place. So, I mean, you know, like I said, there's like 2 parallel lines of work going right now, so.
I gotta see this as this particular part would jumpstart all the rest of that pretty easily with relatively little effort on the part of that new committee, the ad hoc committee, but at the same time be able to move forward and get people's, if nothing else, it gets people's interests started that maybe aren't thinking about it already. And in my little area, we have at least a couple of houses where people already do some sort of xeriscaping. They also do native planting. And native planting can always be a part of xeriscaping. And anybody that does this sort of thing, they that's what their real objective usually is to cut down on that water, make it as water neutral as you possibly can. You may be you may end up using tanks or some kind of catchment, and you can water your plants with those, but you don't have to water the decomposed granite if that's what you're using. And in this day and age, we may have to deal a little bit more with those heat islands that are involved with decomposed granite. Sorry, it's either decomposed granite or it's grass or it's some other kind of planting. Those plants a lot of times can survive. And I think that we can encourage people with the xeriscaping plan to use native plants to keep that, to move forward.
I'd like to make a suggestion, and I'm volunteering someone who may or may not be willing to do this, but Mayor Pro Tem Hyde, you suggested that Mr. Drumright could work with the task force, and could very easily be Councilmember Bailey's voice on that, because we can't have, I mean, it's like, the easy thing to do would be to say, hey, join the task force, but then we've got to form on the task force. But Mr. Drumright, if he was willing to do it, if this amendment passes, and could be a member of the task force and your voice could be heard.
it's a pretty good idea.
Don't put them on the spot like this.
Not to put you on the spot, though,
I'll volunteer here.
There's no formal application. I'll just contact you. Like I said, we have a large enough group now where I think meetings make a little bit more sense beyond like the preliminary things. Because what's not on here is like, how do you communicate about this? What is the cost of that? Planning the mail outs or any of that, signage and all of that stuff. So I think it does make sense to kind of consolidate city efforts on some of these fronts and do it together.
All right, if there's any further discussion, we'll vote on the amendment, which is to have the rain or the water task force, the city's water task force plan and implement a Xeriscape / Planscape front yard competition for the citizens of Woodcreek. That's basically the amendment we're voting on,
And bring back to council for approval.
yeah, and bring that. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye. Aye. Thank you. So the main motion then is, basically as I just read it, so we'll just go ahead and vote again for the main motion as amended. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Okay, thank you very much, Councilman Bailey.
Okay.
I love the idea, and I'm filing my application because I don't have a single, well, I actually have something that looks like St. Augustine that just won't go away. I wanted it, I swear.
No,
But it, all right, so item 8, discuss and take possible action to approve preliminary replat application for 76 Brookhollow Drive, Woodcreek, section 6C, lots 11 and 12. Do you want to bring us up to speed on that, city manager?
Sure. We got an application for, preliminary plat. Basically what it's doing, it's taking 2 lots and making it into 1. And so the first step is the, preliminary plat. We do have Jerry Freeman here, the engineer that's been on the project, and so he might be able to expand on it. More than me, but
Yep, sure. We received the application. They submitted all the documents required to deem the application complete. And we had some technical comments on the actual plat graphic itself, but he mentioned it's taking 2 lots that are approximately 1/4 acre apiece, combining it into 1 lot that's going to be 0.48 acres on Brookhollow Drive, and it's the preliminary plat. This is considered more of a minor plat, and minor plats can come straight to council before one. They don't have to go to P&Z, so they just come to you. If this is approved, then the next step would be to prepare the final plat document, submit the application for final plat. And I think the zoning currently is 2 lots, they're making 1 lot, and the zoning restricts these lots to have only 1 single family house on it. So hearing all the conversation I've heard tonight, you reduce the potential of having another house on another lot in Woodcreek.
so you basically have 3 options here. You can approve it, you can deny it, or you can approve it with the, conditions.
Which,
Or you can add, or you can take out conditions, but our suggestion would be to, accept it with the conditions listed.
Yeah, condition that they address those
Yep, correct.
technical comments.
But then address the technical comments.
I move that we approve a preliminary replat application for 76 Brookhollow Drive, Woodcreek, section 6C, lots 11 and 12, with the conditions that they meet your technical comments.
I
Second.
I'm sorry?
We both did.
Okay, you both seconded?
Yeah.
Councilmember Bailey? All right, so the motion is to approve a preliminary replat application for 76 Brookhollow Drive, Woodcreek, section 60, lots 11 and 12, with the condition that they address the technical requirements outlined by the city engineer. Have that right? Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye, raise your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And that motion passes. Move forward with that. Thank you for your help with that. All right, that is everything on the regular agenda except for executive session. We will be going into executive session for consultation with legal counsel, pursuant to chapter 551.071. And we'll be talking about pending contemplated litigation, settlement offers, or matters. The duty of the attorney to the city council under the Texas disciplinary rules of professional conduct. The state bar of Texas clearly conflicts with the Texas Open Meetings Act, and we're going to be discussing Brookhollow section 6, lot P, PT12. I don't know how long this will be, for the audience. But if it's going to be just one or two, then we can ask them to leave and then we can stay in here, but we will be having the city engineer and city attorney join us for the executive session.
Can we have 10 minutes?
Yes, we can have like a 10-minute addiction break.
We talked about an addiction.
It is for me as you get older. We'll reconvene at Stockholm.
But there's nothing else going on, so.
Just to help things go down
You
easier.
know, if
And
there's.
prove that I've been attending some of these.
Yes.
I know, I see you here. You're very often.
You've done a great job on your,
Nothing else.
you've done a great job on your front.
We gotta rescind that.
All right, it is 8:44. Coming back into session, into regular session, the executive session ended at 8:40, no action will be taken. And I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to return?
Second.
And we are adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.
I guess my
This is for you, so.
next.
Liaison.
Oh.
What's the procedure, about giving a proclamation of Arbor Day?